Alright, this is my third recording. I've done a number of recordings already and they did not record well. So this is my third recording and I'm making it again because there are some things which I wanted to show. Namely, I wanted to show how to add this slideshow called slideshowify to a page. And I wanted to do that to encourage and to explain how to do it on your own rather than seeking for a module, because sometimes you look for a certain module in Drupal.org and you don't find it, so you say, well, this cannot be done because there isn't a module for that. So how can you create a slideshow on your own? Because there are so many libraries and there's so many tools like this that you can use that are not in a module. So the first thing is that we need to download our library. So you need to go to slideshowify and grab that library and download it. And you see that it comes with a library itself. We'll use a minified version, and it comes with another library, transit, for transitions. So we download them both, and in the Drupal side we put them in the folder called libraries, and then the name of that folder. So it's in sites, all libraries, and this is for Drupal 7. Sites, all libraries, slideshowify. The name of the folder is important because Drupal 7 will take the name of the folder to be the name of the library. Now that we downloaded those two files into this folder, we need to declare that library in Drupal 7. Now, so that Drupal 7 would know to load them, those two files. Now, in Drupal 8, in Drupal 7, there are many different ways to declare and load them. In Drupal 8, there is only one way. In Drupal 8, you can only do it through the libraries. You define a Drupal library that you then call. You don't call and attach separate files. You declare them as a single library called slideshowify, and you call that library. So we'll do the same in Drupal 7. In Drupal 7, it's also possible to define the files as libraries, and what it gives you an ability for many different modules to use those files, rather than say, if I don't do it as a library, I have a module, a custom module. Well, actually it's a feature called image gallery. And if I just call those files in an image gallery, then if I want to use those files in some other modules, I will have to call them from there again, those files. So I'll end up having multiple calls to the same files, and if I call them just once and then I remove this module, then if I remove it, the call is no longer there and functionality will be broken. So libraries is a good way to handle that. And there is a tutorial, Drupal libraries API, that tells you how to do that. So you can actually just copy the code, paste it, and change it. It's very important that you don't be afraid to code. Once you know the basic syntax of PHP, you can just start coding, and if you don't know certain parameters and function names and hook names, you can look them up. That will really untie your hands and give you lots of freedom. And it will allow you to do things that otherwise would be impossible or very hard to do. So we define a library. I defined a library in my module VWM node. I just copied out that code and put it in a function. Now you can see that it's a hook. Now what a hook is in programming a technique that when you write a function with a certain name by a certain convention, that the main application will search for a function with that name, and if it finds it, it will use it. And in Drupal there are many different hooks. There are many different hooks that Drupal itself will search to handle theming, preprocessing of data, and so on and so on. So there is also a hook for libraries. It's called hook libraries info. So how that works is that you have to take the name of your module, VWM node in my case, and replace the word hook with that name of the module. So it will become VWM node libraries info function. And now that Drupal 7 knows the name of this module, it will check out for a function with this name. After I create this function, I will need to clear the cache, so that when I clear the cache, it checks for all those functions, so it wouldn't have to check it every time I reload the page. And it creates a registry of them, so Drupal can look them up fast. So I create this function, I reload the cache, and it finds this function, and it's going to use it. So how I can check if it found that function? I can enable the debugger, and I can type something. I usually type a equals 1. It's a phrase that I know is a debug phrase, so for my breakpoints. So I can actually, after each project, search the whole project for a equals 1 and clean them out. Okay, so I reload the page and it stops here. So okay, this function has been called. You see that execution got inside of it. Let's remove this, no longer needed. Cool, so what we do is we copy the code from this page, how to declare a library, and we paste it here. So here's our library slideshowify, and we see that Drupal needs a name. This is a human name, so I put it with a big letter. An actual machine name that Drupal will use is this, a key to the library's variable, and this name needs to correspond to the folder. If it's different from the folder name of this slideshowify, it won't recognize it. So this is, like I said, is the name of the library, and this is the name of the library. They need to be the same. Then this is a human name. You can put anything here, hopefully descriptive. Vendor URL and download URL are there to tell the other developers who will later be looking at this how they can get that library to download it if for some reason it's not in the libraries folder. Version, actually you can see that in the Drupal org it has a version callback or version arguments. So it will try to get the version from the library file. And I saw that many libraries, especially minified, they don't have versions in them. So I just hard-coded the version like this. And then I specify the files themselves. JavaScript, no CSS. This library, Fluidbox, has CSS. And then if you are familiar with Drupal add JS and Drupal add CSS functions, that allow you to insert in Drupal 7 allow you to insert CSS and JS on a page. This syntax belongs to this function. You define the key as the file and an array of options. Scope footer says that it will display it in the footer. Those two files will attach to the footer of the page rather than in the header. And that's it. Then the hook returns the libraries. So now we only need to call that library. And in my in the module VWM image gallery that uses that library, it actually calls those libraries. It first checks if the library exists, and how to check the library is also on that libraries page over here somewhere. It's detect. Yeah, load library form API. Just a second. Here is the detection of the library. So we can detect if that library exists or not. Well, actually, I was thinking about not to do this, not to do the detection, just call the libraries. But because I want to do it in a smart way, and if the library is gone or missing, that it wouldn't do a big error, though of course it will break the page. But yeah, if there is a way to do it smarter, let's do it smarter. Let's check if that library actually exists and then load it. So yeah, here's our library, this light case, slideshowify. Here's our slideshowify library. So it's called and loaded from here, and then once it's called, you should be able to go to the page source and search for slideshowify. Showify. Yeah, and there you go. Let's search from the bottom. Yeah, here are those two files loaded at the bottom of the page. So the library has been called. Well, I can see that it's called because it's working, but if I were just building that, I wouldn't have it actually doing anything at this stage of the work, and I would just check if it's loaded. So now that the library is attached and is loaded, I can actually make my slideshow work with it. Without that library, my slideshow, let me disable it. Return, and yeah, without attaching that library, the images would look like that. So as you can see, this is just a node with images, with image fields with two values, and here is a template for it. Now templates deserve another screencast, but you can create a template with a node image, which means that node image gallery. So this means that it's a template for a node. That's actually in the theme. I'm running a little bit ahead of myself. So in the theme, there is I just copied over the node template, and then I copied that template and gave it a name of node image gallery full pan. So image gallery is the content type, and full pan is a view mode. Now, how did I know that? Which name to give? If you look at the content type image gallery manage display, here is our content type view modes. So full and pan is the one that I'm using. So you see it says full underscore pan. This is the name of this view mode in machine language Fluent Pen. And I use images and description. So I know that I want to display for the slideshow a node with image gallery content type and full pen view mode. I can actually go and check Drupal template suggestions, and it will tell you immediately, if you go for a node, here it is, that you can do node type ID. Oh no, I'm sorry, here node type TPL PHP. So here it is, node type, but then there's also that view mode, and Drupal doesn't support view mode out of the box, but I added it in a node in the VWM node module. Here's this one line that does it. So what there's again hook preprocess node. So I substituted hook with the name of the module, and what it does, it pre-processes the node and it allows you to change things in the node before it's rendered. So what I did, I debug this function to see what data is in here, and boom, I see that in the variables there is a variable for view mode. Here it is, full_pen, and then there is a very interesting array called theme hook suggestions. What these are all the suggestions of the theme that it will seek. So it will look for an original suggestion. It's also somewhere here. Yeah, here, hook, theme hook original. So it will look for a node TPL PHP hook, this one, which is also described here, node TPL PHP. Then it will look for node ID, and sorry, for the node type, node image gallery. So it will look for node image gallery TPL PHP. If not found, it will look for node 22, and it actually goes the other way around. Like it takes the one with the more detail. So the most detail would be node 22 or TPL PHP. It just omits TPL PHP part, because node 22 would be the most detailed. And if it doesn't find that, it will look for an image gallery, and if it doesn't that, will look just for a generic node TPL PHP. Now what I do, I add another key over here that consists of node __, node type, and then view mode. So I actually added a view mode. So let's see what happens when it gets there. Boom. Now this second, you see, with key number 2 is a new one which has just been added, node __, image gallery __ full pen. So now it will check for the one with the view mode, which, so you see that you can change hook template suggestions with one line. You can create for yourself different templates for different versions of your node, depending on, heck, you could even check for certain values here and create a different template for that as well. Now that would be pretty shitty and perhaps a bad tremendous overkill, but you could do that if you wanted. So that gives you lots of liberty with templates. So we create a template for this view mode, for node image gallery full pan view mode, and there we specify this. We add, like, if you look for a node, for a generic view node template, you'll see there are many things here. It tries to take into account whether it's a page or not, and show title. Where's the title? Title, here's title. Show title or not, show comments or not, show links or not. Here are links, here's comments. And now that we do a more specific thing, we don't need that crap. We delete, actually I can even go further and delete even that, because we don't need to check if it's a page or not. And create a nice little pretty template for ourselves. Now I add slideshowify class to the content classes so that I can call it in JavaScript, so the JavaScript would know that this is it, and to theme it also. And then slideshowify library also needs another div where it can put generated things. So here's that div that I added. Okay, so when I do that and I check my template, so here is slideshowify content, slideshowify parent. This is where it will put that data. Okay, so now I actually can go and add a JavaScript function that applies that library to this specific thing. And of course this was copy pasted from the slideshowify page. There's so many people who are afraid to code, but you shouldn't be afraid, because all modern libraries, they have demos, so you can copy and paste and then just change no, not this one. This one is the one I'm using, and instead of this selector we just say slideshowify image selector, so it doesn't take all images but only images in the slideshowify class. And yeah, and the parent element is this, and voila, it works now. Now you will see, actually you see it already works. So that seems like a lot, but it really isn't a lot. You installed a library, declared called a library, you edited the template so it's good with you, you prepared your markup and you code it, and that's it. This is super easy actually. So once you understand and start doing that, it's easy. And if I want to add another library, I can just go to the libraries module. Where's the declaration? Copy a declaration, paste, change, voila, paste, change, voila. Another library, another library. Then if I want to call that library, copy, paste, change the name, voila. So you see, and actually, yeah, here's Drupal add JS and Drupal add CSS, which adds the JS and the CSS of this specific module, image gallery assets, CSS and JS. So this is JavaScript that attaches or calls this library in relation to that element, and the CSS that does some theming. So in the CSS there is a thing that pertains to it. Oh, I set the slideshowify parent to that index 10 because for some reason it was displaying underneath of the container, which I think is a quirk of the theme, but I corrected it. And then I added this. As you can see, I'm hiding the actual slideshowify container. Now you may ask, why are you doing that? Why are you hiding the slideshowify container? Do you remember before I enable this function, I mean this library, I had those two images displayed down here? Now those two images are hidden by slideshowify library, but because it takes a long time for slideshowify to load, and I actually wrapped it with window load event, so slideshowify will be called last, like after everything else is loaded. And I did that because sometimes if there are many images, it will try to start before images have been loaded and will not display them correctly. So I kind of made this event call slideshowify only after all images have been loaded. And so what happens is that when it's loading, especially on remote server and on the first page load, you'll see those images down here for some time, and then when it's loaded, they'll disappear. Even if I refresh the page real fast right now, and I still hide that, you will see how those images down here flicker and then disappear when it just loads. Have a look. What did it do? Wrong thing. I'm sorry. I'm hiding the wrong thing. Okay, have a look. You saw that? How those images show down here and then they disappeared? Look again. So in order for those images not to show, I assign to that container height of 0 and hide the overflow. I cannot just put display none because then they won't display here as well, but this way I'm hiding them in a good way so they don't show themselves down here and don't make the page jump. Okay, so now I can just save it and push. Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching this.